Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this Friday morning. Another week, another sell-off. Every single week, it feels like the month of September has been absolutely terrible. Yes, we've had a few upward moves. Maybe call them head fakes, whatever you want, bear rallies, all that kind of thing. But the reality has been the market direction has been south. And as a matter of fact, down about 6% across the board for all the major indices as we close out this month of September. Although today's a little bit better, but yesterday, oh my goodness, not so good at all. We were under pressure early. We stayed under pressure. We were down as much as well over 500 points to the downside, finished down 456 points on the Dow, down 315 points on the NASDAQ. So to say that it's a little bit of a sell-off, yeah, that'd probably be a bit of an understatement. So the pressure has been on. As a matter of fact, when you look at it percentage-wise, another 1.5% to the downside for the Dow, close to 3% for the NASDAQ, 2.5% for the Russell. We don't talk about the Russell as often, but the Russell's been all over the place, mostly to the downside as well. 2-year. That's what we've been really focusing on. We talk about anything macro related, and that would be what I would point to. The 2-year, the 10-year. The 2-year, a 417. You're looking at the 10-year at 376. Off of the highs, but still trading at an extreme level compared to not too terribly long ago, just a few trading sessions ago. And you see the movement that we have had there. That certainly has been pressuring on the markets. We're looking over at crude. We've been keeping a very close eye on that, 81.5. You've got nat gas trying to get back towards 7 or above 7. Hasn't been able to get there just yet. Every single sector of the market yesterday was in the red, as you'd probably presume. Every once in a while, at least this is the way things used to be back in the old days, we used to have at least one area. Maybe it would be utilities, maybe it would be energy, whatever. But that was not the case yesterday with the volumes that we had, by the way, yesterday, 43.5 million contracts. You've heard me talk about these volumes. The volumes in the derivatives markets have been absolutely off the chain in the month of September. We had that 60 million contract day not too terribly long ago, multiple days, well over 40 million contracts a day as well. Apple yesterday, 2.4 million, Tesla, 2.4 million, Amazon, as I say, each and every day, number 3, 700,000. Why is that? Amazon never used to be in that top level of volumes. Oh, maybe it's because of the split. Anyway, AMD, 600,000 as well. So volatility, it keeps going higher and higher and lifting up. We've got the volatility index yesterday just underneath 32. You've got the volatility of the NASDAQ right around that 37 level. Jumping into some of those sectors, though, what was really the most hard hit yesterday? Well, consumer discretion. That was down almost 3.5% yesterday. It was Tesla down almost 7%. Amazon down about 3%. Then you've got technology itself down nearly 3%, 2.75%. Apple down 5%. Meta down as well. Microsoft down as well. All getting hit to the downside. And then you look over to the communications area, Snap down over 5%. You look at over at something like a Netflix down a couple of percent as well. You get the idea. The pressure was on. Meta, throw that one in there as well. Materials. Not as beaten down, but 1.5% to the downside. A little bit surprising there. You've got names like Cliff. So you look at something like a US Steel, Vale, all down 1% or more yesterday themselves. Financials down about 1.25%. Morgan Stanley down about 2%. Citi down 2.25%. Goldman Sachs down 1.5%. They were all getting hit and getting hit very hard yesterday. FedEx stood out. It actually was in positive territory. Of course, that's a name that's been gotten the crap kicked out of it. You've got Darden in positive territory, Okta, Visa. You've got Travelers in the Dow. So some of those actually in positive territory. It just shows you how bad, and it's something like the Dow where you're only talking about a limited number, how bad things really were yesterday. You know what really stood out was CarMax. That absolutely did get hammered. We talked about it yesterday. They talked about some of the issues that they are facing. That was down, call it close to 25% yesterday. Cruise ships were getting hammered. They are again today, but hammered yesterday. Carnival, Royal, you name it. Tesla. You got names like Solar Edge getting hit pretty hard yesterday. Ford, Lucid, those names also getting hit. We also had AMD and NVIDIA, throw in a little bit of Biogen. Biogen had that monstrous move. Of course, it's going to have a little bit of a correction, but then you had Boeing, you had Apple, you had Walgreens, all of which were getting hit to the downside. A lot calmer start to today, Friday. And with that calmer, we are seeing volatility started off pretty high. It's seeping down just a little bit. It could be a weekend effect. That certainly is a possibility. It's down around 30 and a half, so still above 30, but it was approaching 32. So we are seeing a little bit of a pullback. It was up nearly 5% early on in terms of the volatility index. VXN, sort of the same story, up about 4%, easing back a little bit off of those levels where it is right now. But certainly we are seeing volatility, trading very volatile as well. Also looking at what's going on in the markets, we're down about 40 points or so. Like I say, sort of a calm start to the day. We had plenty of earnings reports as well. NASDAQ down just a little bit. NASDAQ's been holding up, getting into positive territory, and then starting to have a little bit of a move up, call it anywhere from 20 to 40 points or so. The Dow, on the other hand, it's seen a little bit of positive territory, got up flat, got into the green, but it's been mostly somewhere close to about 100 points to the downside. We'll continue to monitor that, but that is in this first hour of trade. Now, news stories, that is really sort of what's going on and pushing things around a little bit. And of course, you can still look at earnings. I know that we go into the earnings season, we talk about the financials, we talk about all these other names, but we continue to have earnings throughout this entire season. And Nike, oh my goodness, did they have a disappointment? That's a stock that's down anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12% today. I'll tell you what, they are going to need to have some discounts because inventories are extremely high. People did not like hearing that. That stock under some serious pressure. You did see a little bit of a beat from Micron, but sales were below the forecast. So a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative. Here's what's really going on. Not a lot of movement because of, like we said, we are about where we started the day. But you look at those sectors, not a lot of movement, but energy down about 0.5%, consumer discretion down about 0.5%, materials, positive territory, financials, positive territory, technology, a little bit of positive territory as well. But you look at those consumer discretions, you've got Nike, you've got Starbucks, you've got Walmart, all getting slammed. What's helping some of the materials? Well, Nucor is one of those names that's helping. You've also got Paramount. We've got United Health. We've got a little bit coming a positive out of JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, just a little bit. But I mentioned those cruise ships. Boy, are they under some serious pressure again. Take a look at Carnival, down 15%. You look over at something like Norwegian and Royal, they're down as well. I mentioned Nike down as well, down about 12%. Applied Materials, Lam Research, you've got Lulu under some pressure, obviously, and off just because of what's going on with Nike. That's getting dragged a little bit as well. You've got Skyworks, you've got Netflix, you've got Disney. You get the idea. Across the board, we are seeing some pressure there. Now, we've got some unusual option activity for you. How about Marathon Oil? Some sizable trading going on here, and unusual because they're going out in time. They're not staying right within the week or the month or going out in from October to November. That isn't what we are seeing. What we are seeing is going all the way to January. And with the stock trading at 22.30, they're buying 15,000 calls in January the 24th for $2.40, financing some of that by selling a downside put at the 21 strike. So if you see that volume, those puts were sold, those calls were bought. That's very bullish. But obviously, you got to understand the big boys out there selling puts fully have a full understanding of what's going on there. That is not something we're going to be focusing on. Focusing on that call buying and the hold trade is definitely very, very bullish. Guys, I don't do this very often, but it's a Friday. Why not have a little bit of fun like we do on Rebel's Edge with a little sports? I'm going to steal something from yesterday's Rebel Edge. Now, game week. What is the game of the week, college or pro? I thought that game last night was going to be the pro game of the week. It certainly was entertaining for much of it. Late in the fourth quarter, we did have a comeback. We see a 13 points scored. That was pretty impressive. But I'm looking at college football. I'm looking at Kentucky, and I'm looking at Kentucky playing Ole Miss. Well, this should be pretty fun. Two big rivals, of course. They're going to be going at it, of course. Both ranked very high, of course. Both undefeated. Should be pretty interesting. I'll tell you what, Lane Kiffin and what they're doing on the running game right now, That's why I would lean towards them. We'll see what happens. Kentucky's got a great passing game. They can't run the ball on anybody. So unless that changes in a hurry, you're going to see ball control and stuffing the ball down the throat of Kentucky by Ole Miss. Keep an eye on Lane Kiffin. He's going to be over there with that visor on his head, having a good time, and he's got to keep his head clear because, of course, his phone's been ringing for that Nebraska job as well. I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying sure seems like he'd be a good fit with all the lineage that he's got back at Nebraska. We'll see. Folks, have a great day of trading. Have a great weekend. And I'll tell you what, be smart, be careful, and give your prayers and thoughts for the folks down in Florida because it's been a brutal, brutal couple of days. Have a great weekend.